Oh, hello. Today I'm going to do my tournament report from the Athena Games Duel of the Fates Shatterpoint event that I attended on the 12th of April. So this was a one-day tournament at Athena Games in Norwich, which is about an hour and 40 minutes down the road from where I live. So that's pretty handy. I'm usually trekking off to Nottingham or Manchester or somewhere further afield, and so nice to find a local event. 3 rounds with a short lunch break. Started quite late, 11 a.m., so that was pretty cool because we only had to leave. We left about 8, and actually we got there quite a bit earlier than we needed to, about half an hour. So yeah, it was pretty good. I think it finished about 7. Weirdly, they didn't publish the schedule anywhere, which I thought was a bit strange. Like it wasn't on the event page, so I can't quite remember what the round timings were supposed to be. And my memory is a bit like a sieve, but I think it finished about 7, maybe half 7. I don't know. I was fine doing 3 rounds. I know a lot of people like their tournaments for various games to always be 4 rounds. They typically could have started a bit earlier and had 4 rounds if that's what they wanted to do. But I was actually appreciative of the later start, so that was good. The venue, Athena Games, is in Norwich. I'd never been before. I was actually persuaded to try a Kill Team event there. So the Kill Team event is in not next weekend, but the weekend after, right? So the way this worked was I met Linford, who's the head sort of chief sort of main Kill Team player, right? Um, in Norwich at Athena Games, and he persuaded me that I should try one of their events, right? Because I lived nearer to them than I do to Nottingham, which is where we met. We met at Sanctuary, and then because I'd looked them up and found their website and was looking around, I found they were also doing a Shatterpoint event 2 weeks before the Kill Team event. So I thought, well, I'll give that a go as well. Why not? Persuaded Zimbad to come with me, which was cool. Nice that he could get out to play some games because he's swerved the last few. I will say it's utterly massive inside. So the photo here of the shop front that I've taken off Google Maps makes it look like quite a pokey little, high street FLGS. But actually, you go in, and it's massive. So that's cool. The gaming hall, pretty nice. They had snacks, sandwiches, crisps, chocolate, fridges full of drinks, Monster, the usual stuff like that. Not a vast array of sandwiches. They were fine with people like going and getting food from elsewhere and bringing it in, but I don't know Norwich particularly well, and we didn't have that long for lunch, so I didn't want to go out and try and look for food and make it back. And some of the people that did do that were still eating when it was time to start the next round, so it wasn't the biggest. So I was happy. The sandwich was quite nice. Well, it was like made for a local place. Had a sticker on the front telling you where it had been made. So yeah. What I thought was quite interesting was the event was being run and facilitated by the paid staff of the store. It's quite an organised little store. Like the staff have got little polo shirts and stuff like that, which doesn't seem that abnormal for retail, but actually for any local gaming stores, usually it's like one guy in a hoodie manning the till, and that's the entire, seemingly the entire complement of staff for the store. They had quite a team of people, and there was different people from the actual store that was facilitating the event, which was pretty interesting because usually these events they're using the local store as a play space, but it will be a community leader facilitating the actual game. So that was an interesting twist. Now, it was a town centre venue, and that brings problems with parking. I parked in St Giles Street multi-storey car park, which, as far as I could work out, was the second closest car park. There was a closer car park, but Google couldn't work out how to get me there because it didn't want to drive down a lot of the roads in Norwich city centre because it thought they were pedestrianised when they're not. Now it cost me 10 quid to park. Granted for basically all day, right? It was like 6 hours. but that was with a 50%. So you had this system where you take your, because I'm a blue badge holder, so you take your disabled badge to a little kiosk and show it to the fella, and he gives you a little chip to scan at the ticket machine, and it gives you half off. So might be prohibitively expensive if you an able-bodied person and you parking in that car park, 20 quid a throw. Yeah, Norwich is an interesting town, because it was in the town centre. They're very into all various alternative stuff, which is, fine, good. Like the I went to a coffee shop that was like 2 doors or 3 doors away from Athena Games, and I could have had like mushroom coffee alternative, or I could have had like a shot of CBD oil in my coffee, which I didn't opt. I'm quite boring, right? I'm not particularly alternative, so I didn't opt for either of these things. And then most of the places had like just like pride flags or like the steampunk stuff. It just seemed like a very alternative, like young peoply kind of a place, which is fine. It's a nice vibe. It's cool, and it will mean that like you will probably feel very welcome if you are here for an event. Very inclusive place, and that's positive. And I will say, it was reasonably small event. I think it was 12 people with two ladies, which is much more. I don't know whether that's a Shatterpoint thing or an Athena Games thing, but it is nice to see more like not just be a room full of blokes, because my wife plays all these games as well, and she does get a bit hacked off when she turns up to events and she's the only. I am the only girl, and that is frustrating for her. So that's nice. So that's positive. I'm a little bit fussy and raise an eyebrow at being offered CBD oil in my coffee, but that's just me being me. Although what I will say, and this is, I desperately want to get back to talking about war games. I promise this is not going to turn into a socio-political rant. I will say there was stairs to get into the gaming venue, and one of those things. And I had a look on a Athena Games website, and sure enough, they say, "Oh, we pride ourselves on being an inclusive space," and da, 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 da. And it's like it's really funny to me as a disabled person, and I don't like to go on about it, and I don't mention it a lot in my videos. But everyone's all in on the inclusivity train when it's like every other legally protected group in inequality out that you can think of. Being inclusive towards them basically boils down to not being a knobhead, right, and just generally being polite and reasonable. Um, Once disabled people get involved, you might actually have to buy like a lift or a ramp or something, or spend some money and or modify your premises. And I get that it's not always possible because people rent and everything else and the rest of it, but it is wearying a little bit. No, I'm fine. I can manage stairs. I got stairs in my house. I use lifts when they're there. I have good days and bad. I'm not in a wheelchair. If you was in a wheelchair, much like when I reviewed Element Games, I can't work out how you're getting in to the gaming venue. And I like to say it. I don't like to say it. I wish I lived in a world where I never had to say it. But I like to say it because somebody watching this might be in a wheelchair or have other mobility issues where they can't. It was about, I want to say 5 or 6. It was not a big flight of stairs. It was like six stairs. Although I will say, the painfully woke steampunk themed coffee shop that was like 3 doors down, the toilet was in the loft, and I did think I was going to die trying to get up and down the. You go up one flight of stairs, it's fine, and then you just start a flight of stairs. It's like this steep thing that looks like it's been condemned by a building inspector. And again, I don't want to go off, but you are now informed and can make your own choices about that going forward in your life. Let's get back to talking about Shatterpoint. So this is the team that I was taking. Pretty standard. I think it's a Cad Bane Count Dooku list that has been popularized on the internet by other people. Okay, the big benefit, and I've talked about this bit before in my separatist faction rundown. The big benefit to here is that when you're building a separatist list and you're not using Cad Bane, who brings 9 squad points, you can't fit Dooku, Kalani, and the B2s in the same list without Cad. And by my estimation, Dooku, Kalani, and the B2s are the best things in Separatists. So, you know, in an attempt not to have to drop one of those 3 things, this is what I went with. Now, I did go with Kraken as well. I really like Kraken. You could take Django. I know a lot of people really love Django Fett. You could take Savage Oppress, so I think he's probably actually. Now I've got him painted now, but I think he's actually really good with Dooku as well. There's a couple of things that you could sub into that 4-point thing. But I think Kraken's really good because he has that global move for the droid. Kalani's a funny one because Kalani, if you get him early in Struggle 1 and you get that big move while you're all clustered in deployment and you get to move all your supports, get to do a dash, that feels great, right? And then when Kalani comes up later in the game, he doesn't feel that great. But you've got to remember, just by him being on the table, he's giving you an extra dice in almost all of your droids fighting at any time, right? So your Magnas, your B2s, Kraken and Kalani themselves, as long as there's another droid within 4 of a target, which is quite often going to be the case, you're almost always getting to roll that extra dice, which I think is really good. Yeah, so the next event I'm going to is Premier, so I'm going to be taking slightly different stuff. Were I going to another sort of standard event like this, probably I'm going to take the same list. Like, we'll see, but probably this is a list I'm going to stick on for a little while and try and get the best out of it. Okay. So my first game, I was playing on the unpainted terrain, and I'm going to speak about the terrain. So the other 2 tables I played on were beautiful. There was just this one table that was nice, official terrain, unpainted, and a couple of the tables there that I didn't get to play on, but they were there, were actually using 40k terrain. They were using Beta Decima, right, the kill team stuff, which finally a good use for Beta Decima. Now, if you're someone who plays kill team, you're familiar with Beta Decima, and you look at this terrain, you can probably see, oh yeah, I understand how Beta Decima terrain would work really well as Shatterpoint terrain. And indeed, a good friend of mine, Oro, he's in the Discord, plays on Beta Decima stuff at home for Shatterpoint and finds it perfectly fine as well. I think you need to add in a little bit. They were Beta Decima with some Star Warsian scatter on the ground level a little bit. I don't know how the scatter doesn't add that much in Shatterpoint. The main thing scatter terrain is going to do for you is create areas where miniatures can't be placed. Right? Doesn't really do that much in terms of your shooting. So yeah, this was against Vix Mac 22. I didn't give me her real name, but I like to use the names that people. If I'm going to make a video about, and I haven't sought consent before because it always feels like pushing my channel when I go, by the way, I've got a YouTube channel and blah, blah, blah. So I use the information on Longshanks that's publicly available, and if someone set a handle, then that's what I will refer to them as, right? Vix was playing the Padme box and the Kiadi Mundi box. Not played against Padme before. Padme, I think, is really cool. I think a lot of the Padme is one of those things where really it did feel like I was playing against 2 different teams that were on their side of the table, and they didn't really interact with the other squad. But this was a really interesting game I won the first struggle, and we were playing Never Tell Me the Odds. And the first struggle had my two back objectives, and Vix had her two back objectives, and then the other active objective was right in the centre, and it was basically just became a giant mosh pit in the centre, which I managed to take the win on that one. And then the second struggle just took ages. It was really, really good. It was really, really close. Um, Vix was winning for like almost the whole thing was in her side of the struggle tracker for almost the whole struggle. But I kept just winning enough, scoring enough, winning enough, scoring enough to pull it back, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. But constantly keeping it in her side, so I creeping all the way up with the call them me and Zimbag call them pity cubes, right? But the momentum that you get for not getting the thing back onto your half, and I just kept her off the win for such a long time, but couldn't sustain it. And then struggle three, I can't really remember. It was really quick. I lost struggle three. I think that just even though I got to pick the active objectives, I just couldn't get that much out of it. I didn't think so. Yeah. Um, we played Never Tell Me the Odds. Now, I'd never played Never Tell Me the Odds before, actually. Never Tell Me the Odds is the one where you can spend force or momentum, I think. No, just force, maybe. For essentially a VP, when you, like, so it will tell you kill someone with a primary, kill someone with a secondary, kill someone with support. I did it once. My opponent never did it. Right? I don't think it was. It was her choice of. It was the mission deck that was attached to her list. I don't think it was that interesting or impactful. Like it was a pretty. We just ended up playing a pretty standard. But maybe you see one by not knowing the mission particularly well. I didn't really know. Like probably the reason that I lost quite quickly struggle three was having never played it before. Didn't know which objectives were likely to come up struggle three, and therefore wasn't positioned for it. I think was probably what happened. And so um, if you just like a scenario because you like the pattern of the objectives and you're not that fussed on the special rule, then that's perfectly valid as well, right? And I will say as well that one of the reasons that I kept in struggle two quite as long as I did was I was very lucky with the where you roll a dice and that objective becomes double, and it was just constantly giving me the one that I had, which was quite nice. Yeah. Round two was against a guy called Ben Sturman. So Ben was playing an interesting list. Bounty Hunters is probably is a list I because I've bought the Mando box, right, and obviously I have the CAD box. I was using it. Bounty Hunters is something that I think if I ever get bored of Separatists and I really want to play a lot of Shatterpoint, I might start playing my Bounty Hunters because it seems really interesting. Ben was playing Mando with Bosk. Had a great shirt. He had a Bosk T-shirt that said "Like a Bosk," which I thought was really good. Um, and then with Han and Chewie in it for the money, who aren't bounty hunters, but they are scoundrels, so they don't ruin Mando's synergies where he needs everyone to be a scoundrel or a bounty hunter or a Mando, right? And they have essentially got Payday as well. It's not called Payday, but they have essentially got Payday as well. And then the other team was Cad, Django, and the Bounty Hunters. So obviously, whenever anyone, except for Han and Chewie, but whenever anyone wounded anybody, they refreshed 2 Force and healed Cad, which was pretty cool. Han and Chewie could Payday to be Bounty Hunters if you wanted to get the Force refresh as well. And then obviously Bosk's really awesome. Like Bosk was the man of the match. Bosk won this match for Ben, just with the number of things that he can do. Really big fan of Bosk. Uh, running joke between me and Zimbad is that Bosk is the best character in Shatterpoint, right? So tempted to buy the Bounty Hunters box with Bosk, the Bosk box as we call it, just because Bosk's really cool and it's just that the eras make it really awkward and you can't work with most of my stuff. The thing that annoys me is that Bosk is in the Clone Wars TV show. Bosk could totally have Fall of the Jedi as one of his eras, it'd be fine. I did have a joke with Zimbad that one day instead of doing a kill team painting contest on the channel, we should just say everyone's gonna paint Bosk, and we're just gonna judge the best painted Bosk. Bosk, Bosk, Bosk's cool, and I'm not just doing it. I am partially doing a bit here, but actually, Bosk was the man of a match for Ben. Like Mando is also very, very ferocious. Like I Mando is almost scarier than Darth Vader, just in terms of the way he is. He can do everything. He's got diceless displacement because he's got the magic hand thing. He just doesn't die. He can hit like a truck. Like he gets on a point, just goes mine, and there's not a lot you can do about that. And in fairness, there's other characters that can do the same thing. You know, I mean, nobody wants to fight Dooku, right? Like at all. So he's just one of those primaries that really demands respect. Um, we're playing First Contact, so it's the new mission. Now we're playing the mission I brought, right? I really like First Contact. I think it's a really, really fun mission. So First Contact is weird in a number of ways. Its gimmick is that when either player Shatterpoints, both players get to do something cool, right? And there's a big choice of different cool things that you can do. That's not the massively impactful part. Like sometimes both you and your opponent, like, well, I guess I'll do this, but neither of you really super leverage it. But sometimes it's quite awesome. But the big thing that I like about First Contact is it doesn't have um, it doesn't have roll a dice or that objective is worth double. And instead, what it has is if in any turn your opponent's basically, if in any turn your opponent scores 3 or more, after they've scored their 3 or more on the struggle tracker, you can then spend a force or momentum, but I wouldn't recommend ever spending a momentum. You can then spend a force to draw one of the other two, only in struggles 2 and 3, but you can then spend a force to draw one of the other two unused struggle cards and reflip the tokens to change things up. So it has that kind of built-in catch-up mechanic where if your opponent's in a dominating position, you can have a roll of the dice and just be like, well, how about now? And sometimes it doesn't really help you, right? You roll the dice and go, well, how about now? And they go, well, I'm still on 2. You know, but it's cool and it's not got that looks-based thing where somebody can just be like, oh, it's this objective that I'm on right at the back of the board is the one worth double again. Haha. So I really like First Contact, and I'm going to be taking First Contact as my mission of choice for probably the foreseeable future. I do think that wouldn't work necessarily well for, say, Republic or maybe Empire, because they often don't have spare force to spend, right? But I know that separatists, especially if you're running with Cad and Dooku, um, end up with quite a lot of force spare usually, which is cool. Ben, it's funny. Ben was a little bit quiet and a little bit tense and a little bit workmanlike for the first bit of the first turn because he'd just been beaten by Zimbad quite like quickly, I think. And he knew that, like, because Zimbad came to chat to me at the start of the game, and Ben knew that me and Zim were coming in the same car, and we were both strangers to the club. We'd never been there before, we weren't locals. So I think he thought that we were a pair of really good players that had come to club them, and that wasn't the that I'm not a player of Zimbabwe's caliber. So yeah, Ben soon lightened up, and it was a really enjoyable and quite close game. I did lose, but I lost in 3 struggles. I'll take that to the bank. The Cads never fought, right? But yeah, like I say, Han and Chewie are really, really good for a support. Like, yeah, they are a 5-point support, but they feel they both feel really impactful, right? They obviously do have the weakness of being a support and therefore sharing a wounds pool, right? but they feel as impactful as they should for being those characters, which is really cool. And yeah, I think definitely he made the right choice to kind of put those in instead of the IG, which is just a single character. Because I think having those two characters running around was definitely something he leveraged. Like Chewie, for a little bit of the game, held down one objective on one side of the board almost by himself. It was pretty cool. And then round three, the final round, I was playing a guy called Matt Horn. Matt was playing Ewoks with Logray and the Trappers and Wicket. And then the other box was the Leia, obviously Princess Leia Freedom Fighter, the one that goes with the Ewoks, with the Ewok Hunters, but then with Chewbacca as the secondary from Han Solo's Endor box, right? I won in 3 struggles this time, but it was also really close, really enjoyable game. I find Ewoks a little bit tricky, uh, just because I'm not trying to beat up on Matt because he was a great guy and he played a great game. His models were unpainted as well, which probably didn't help. And so I'd be like, how much help are these Ewoks on? And he'd be like, oh, the Trappers, they're on there. And the Hunters are there. And what about this little guy? Oh, Wicket. I can't remember who's who and what's what because they're all tiny, right? They were all unpainted, which again, it's fine. It wasn't a requirement to have your model painted. And I don't remember them having names in Return of the Jedi. Basically, I'm sure they do, and I'm sure it's in a book somewhere. And I'm sure my friend Blue, who also plays Ewoks, right, is scandalized that I don't know them all off by heart and their personalities and their favorite colors and their view on geopolitics. But like, Ewoks are furry little murderers who they were going to eat Han Solo. I mean, I just don't really care about them enough to learn their little individual names. And that is definitely a me problem. But for my money, they're one of the more kind of somewhat boring parts of Star Wars. But again, if you love them, and that's fine. But I do just find it a little bit tricky. Chewie, though, Chewie, especially the secondary Chewie, is really, really solid. Like, you cannot, again, he almost held down an entire flank by himself for most of the game. So that's pretty cool. Big fan. Big fan. Right. Final placing. So I came 9th out of 12th, which, not great, right? But I won. I always go into a tournament hoping to do 50-50. And obviously in a 3-round tournament, you can't do 50-50. So I did 1 out of 3. But I got all my games held to 3 struggles, right? I won 1, I lost 2. Obviously, it's not a great performance, and there's a limit to how much I'm prepared to kind of polish a not particularly great thing. But I'm pretty reasonably pleased with my performance nonetheless. You can see that my round 1 opponent Vix came 2nd, my round 2 opponent Ben came 3rd, but my round 4th opponent Matt came last, which is an interesting one, isn't it? You can see that Zimbad, or Paul Allen as he is occasionally known, came 4th, which he thought was pretty cool, considering this was his first ever Shatterpoint tournament, so that's pretty cool. I was pretty pleased as well, like, not a desperately competitive crowd. A couple of people, like, Gary was running Mando Armorer. Vix, as I said, was running Kiadi and Padme. Ben was running Mando Cad. Paul Zimbad was running Mando Armorer. Paul Sutton was running the Rebels crew, right? Mark doing Vader Krennic. Lexi with the Rebels crew, Robin with Moff Krennic, right? Then there's me with Dooku and Cad, Stefan with Obi Hunter, right? Dan with Dooku Grievous, and Matt with Leia and Logray. So nobody running Iden, which that's chill, right? Now I know that the Rebels guys are also regarded as meta defining. I know Mando is currently up there in the meta. I know that Hunter and Obi was at one point quite recently thought of being a bit. The vibe was pretty chill. People weren't bringing the filth, and I was pretty pleased with that actually. Definitely will go again and play Shatterpoint with these folks. It was a great group of people. Really enjoyed myself in that regard. Yeah. Prize support. So there was interesting glass trophies for first, second, and third. I didn't get a decent look at them. They look like they're pretty standard, pretty similar to the ones Games Workshop have, to be fair, with just like an engraved logo and writing on. That was pretty nice. The glass trophy for best painted, which sadly I did not win, to my internal sadness. I don't know. I'm not going to turn this into a 27-minute video of I don't understand people don't like my paint jobs. I look at the things I paint and go, that's really, really banging. And then, yeah, it is what it is. Neither is Zimbad, though, and I know his stuff's better. So there must, in fairness, I didn't get around to look at every single paint job. So I'm just guessing that there was somebody there who was really, really awesome. What they didn't have was it was a leave your stuff on the table over lunch and we'll come round and have a look at them. It wasn't like a put all your stuff on the central table, so there was no way to easily go and look at everyone else's stuff because the lunch break wasn't that long, and I didn't want to rush my sandwich. I mean, I know I'm very particular in that regard, but I didn't want to rush my sandwich. Come on. There was wooden spoon for last place. I have come last at Warhammer World. Warhammer World don't do a wooden spoon. I don't know how I feel about last place prizes. Feels a little like rubbing salt in the wound, but then I suppose at least you get something. I don't know. I feel like the trophy winners may also have gotten vouchers. None of the official prize support was seen that we saw Element Games though, so none of the foil cards or the dice or anything like that. Which, I've now been to 2 Shatterpoint tournaments, so I don't know how normal that stuff is. I know that the gaming stores have to pay for it, but then to pay for the glass trophies, they pay for the vouchers. So it's just you pays your money and takes your choice, I guess. Would have been nice to see the official stuff, especially as far as AMG are concerned. If you buy one of those prize packs, there's supposed to be something for every single person that attends. Is the way they think you should give it out. So, always nice to get a prize for turning up. But no, it was the glass trophies, which is again they don't have to do anything, right? Tournaments don't have to have any kind of prize, really. They can just have a nice little printed certificate. It's about going and playing the games more than anything else. So it's nice that it was there. Yeah. Personal reflection. So I definitely really enjoyed the event. I would definitely go again. I feel like all 3 games are very close. Now, a little bit of soul searching because 2 of the people I played and the people I lost against were ultimately finished second and third. And the one person I won against ultimately came last. Am I just deluded in thinking that all 3 games were close, right? Because it's not escaped my kind of notice that Shatterpoint is just very well designed. I think it is the best war game I've ever played for really minimizing that time. And 40k is the worst. Do you know how when you're playing 40k and you get to a point where it's like, I've clearly lost, or I've almost certainly lost. Ignore the fact that somebody sending me a Facebook message. But there's still 90 minutes of game left, right? Shatterpoint's really good at minimizing that feeling of I'm stuck playing this game and I've obviously lost. So that's good. But I do wonder I'm deluding myself slightly, and that the games that I lost weren't as close as I think. But that said, I did take a struggle off both of those players. Now, if I'd been crushed, I'd expect to lose in 2 struggles, right? So that's a good thing. That's positive. And yeah. My next Shatterpoint event will be Premiere, and that's not for another 2-3 weeks. Okay. I've not quite tried out all the different models that I want to take to that, but I need to play some games with Kill Team because I'm going to a Kill Team tournament in Nottingham in Easter weekend, and then I'm going back to Athena Games for another Kill Team tournament the weekend after that. So need to get my eye back in on Kill Team. I'm forgetting quite a lot about how that plays. But yes, I'm liking the Dooku and CAD combo. Like I said at the start, I think I want to stick on them. I like that they have these sort of supportive identities that are doing really good stuff all the time. I'm less fond of primaries like Grievous and Asajj, where they have identities that like when this character does something really cool, they can do all this extra cool stuff. Because I often find, especially with the separatists, who actually like when you're trying to control who actually gets the wound, like often you want to go in with a big character, you do a big pile of damage, and then the wound will actually be scored by, a support doing that last little bit, right? So, yeah, I find it hard with the big kind of bruiser characters that only get to trigger their identity when they wound something. It doesn't come off that often. Not my favourite. But having said that, I think in every single game, except perhaps the last game, there were times when I just forgot. When I wounded somebody, especially Cad, because I've not played that much with him yet, when I wounded somebody, just forgot to refresh a force. Could have just had a free force and I didn't take it, which not the biggest thing in the world because I was very rarely running out of force because, I don't tend to forget Dooku's trigger, although again, there were times when I forgot that as well, have to be said. The other thing is there were times when I could have spent more force to do a dash or to do 2 damage with CAD that I didn't remember to think about because every time, I need to, if I'm playing CAD, need to get into my head that every single time I make an attack action, I need to consider, do I want CAD to jump towards that attack action? Do I want him to, if he's already within 4, do I want him to shove on 2 extra damage? That is an important thing that I need to fix in my mind. But I'm a big fan of First Contact. It's a really fun mission, even if setting up the counters at the start is sort of somewhat laborious. Yeah. Final thoughts. Were you at the event? Have I managed to this video managed to find its way to anybody? I didn't do any self-promotion at the event at all because I was new and I was in their space. I didn't feel like advertising my thing. But if you've managed to see this thumbnail and you've clicked on it, I was there. Like, do please share your insights down below. I would also, if anyone's got any general Shatterpoint advice, I'm still a relative novice to Shatterpoint, so I'd love your thoughts. And then tournaments. I'm doing a lot of tournaments, so I've got a Kill Team with Not's Kill Team Easter weekend, Easter Saturday. In fairness, I'm back home for Easter Sunday. And then I got Norwich again back at Athena Games the weekend after that on the Saturday. And then the weekend after that, I'm going up to Element Games, two-day Shatterpoint at Element Games. And then that's it for the foreseeable. And then I'm looking at the 2-day Kill Team again, the Turning Point Tactics Weekender in June. Man, but it's going to be like 185 quid with the hotels and the hotel rooms and everything else. So I'm going to go as long as there's still tickets. I'm waiting for eBay to relinquish some money that they owe me, which takes a long time now. It's a whole thing. Anyway, if you enjoyed it, please do subscribe, comment, like, etc. Consider joining the Discord. Sorry if I'm a bit low energy. It's late. I need to go to bed, but it's that thing where I didn't manage to get my video made, and then I was watching Glass Half Dead's live stream because it's Monday, and then I had to go back and finish recording the video because that's life. But I did actually genuinely really enjoy the event, and I'm glad I went, and I would go again and do the exact same thing with all the exact same people. I just sound a bit. Oh, I actually had somebody DM me like, "Are you okay? You sound a bit depressed." I'm just tired. Don't worry about it. All right, guys. I'll see you again next time. Have a good one. Cheery, cheery, bye. Bye, 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 bye.